Hi, I'm Marlene Steele. I'm the owner and artist of My Color Strokes in Dayton, Ohio. I'm just jumping into resin, so I thought I'd show you some of my epic fails and things I've learned as I started this new process. Let's jump in. Hi, everybody, and I just can't wait to share with you what I've been doing. So, I think some of you may know, but some of you don't. I have, I've been doing texture art for a long time. But I just recently started doing something called resin. Now, you've probably already heard of this before, but I am here to show you my most epic adventure yet, and I'm so excited. So we're gonna dive right in, and I'm gonna show you some of the products that I'm gonna be using, and then I'll walk you through the process, see what you think. There we go. And here we go. So today, we're going to dive in headfirst to this spectacular new process, and we're going to see the process, how it works. And let's face it, I'm a beginner, so I've had some epic fails. So some of them are funny, some of them are not so funny. So I'm going to share with you those so that you can learn from my mistakes. So first of all, let me just show you the gloss. So these are just little 6x6 paintings that I did with palette knives. So they have some texture to them. And then I added the resin. Can you see that gloss? And I tell you what, it just made these colors just pop out. So I'm excited to share with you how this works, okay? So I've got 3 little pumpkins here that I was gonna show you. So I'll go ahead and you see how beautiful the finish is on this. You could do anything. You could do anything. So, along with that, I'm also doing these little bitty canvases. Look how cute. Look how cute. And they're going to be Christmas ornaments. So think of the ideas that you can do. All the things. Okay? So, I'm going to show you some things that I use. So I'll be right back. I'll show you the stuff I use. First of all, you want to make sure that you're using an art grade resin. So I buy ArtResin, but I'm sure there's other brands on the market. Just do your investigation. You want something that's not going to yellow your art. That would be terrible. So it comes in 2 parts. You've got the resin and you've got the hardener. And this one you have to match. You have to mix it equal parts, 1 to 1, and there's a chemical reaction that causes it to set up and become rock hard. So, I'm going to show you that. You're going to need some kind of measuring cup. I find that these disposable ones are the easiest, and they're in my Amazon store. So, I will set the link to that. I have a link for the resin as well if you want to buy that. Then, you can use all kinds of mica powders. You can use making powders. Look at the color on that. Oh, okay. You can do all of that. Then you're gonna need rubber gloves. Oh, let me tell you, it's a mistake if you don't use gloves. You'll find out the hard way, just like I did. It is so sticky. It is worse than super glue. So, make sure you get yourself some gloves. Then you're also going to need, it's advisable to wear an apron, so I'm going to put my apron on. It's really, because if this gets on your clothes, which, let's be honest, if you're an artist, if you do painting or anything, you've got clothes that have whatever materials that is on them. But we try to save them, right? The other thing I'm going to show you here is I've got a level. Now, I'm going to move some of this, and I'm going to get you up close so that you can see what I'm talking about. I've got this painting set up, and I've got it set on these little risers. I will show you what they look like. So they're like little pyramids or little, they're not really a triangle, but anyway, they're like little pyramids. and they keep the painting up off of the surface of the table, because as the resin drips down, you're going to see that it really can make quite a mess, and it will dry hard to the edge. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So you see that right there? I just laid this flat and I thought I could control it, but the resin ran over, and now I've got to spend time with a knife, and it takes a little bit cutting that off and hope I don't damage the painting. So I don't want to do that anymore. That's an epic fail. Okay, then let's get right in here. You can see that I'm gonna make sure it's level, going lengthwise, crosswise, and then I'm also gonna check both triangle size, okay? The reason that you have to do that is because resin is self-leveling, and if there's a low spot, it's gonna go to the low spot while it sets up and dries, all right? That's not what we want. We want it to be level and even, okay? Then the other thing is almost a requirement. You gotta have some kind of heat source. You can have a heat gun, or some people have a little torch. You wanna be careful, just keep moving it, but once you get the resin on there, you'll see in the video how I use it. But the resin is gonna have bubbles in it, and the heat gun will help remove those bubbles. So that's what we need to get started. I'm gonna get started, and I'll be back to show you how it works. And that's what we need. So grab your gloves and your resin, because we're about to dive in, and we're gonna transform these canvases into glorious, shiny works of art. And I'm gonna show you the rest of my mistakes. It's not pretty, but you know, we learn, right? So hopefully you learn from my mistakes. Let's dive in and get resin. So here I'm showing you how to prep the canvas before we get ready to pour the resin. So this is a tape that I found that is made specifically for working with resin. The resin doesn't stick to it, and it makes for really easy cleanup when it's all done. So what you may guess is that when you have a canvas and it drips over the edges, if you just let it drip, it's gonna create all these little bumps and drips underneath the canvas as it dries. And then if you don't do something to prevent that from happening, then you end up with a mess on the back of your canvas that you have to clean up after it's dry, which is time consuming, and you also take a chance of damaging it, because about the only way to get it off of there is either cut it or sand it, and you could damage your painting by doing that. So I found this tape, and I didn't find this tape until after I'd tried painter's tape, and that did not work out well. I'm just gonna tell you that the painter's tape kept lifting, and the resin would go underneath the painter's tape, and it would just cause a big bump, and I was back to sanding or trying to cut that off. So you'll see that I'm laying this on here, and I'm making it a little wider than the canvas itself, and then I'm coming back with an X-Acto knife and cutting right up to that edge. That way, later in the video, you're going to see when we take this off, it just cleans that up perfectly. So to me, it is absolutely well worth using. So you want to do all four sides of your canvas, all four on the back side, all four. And it's really easy to cut, but it's some kind of a silicone tape that's made for using with resin. So once you get it on all four sides, you just want to go around and rub it down really good so it makes sure it has a good attachment to the canvas. Now it's time to measure and mix our resin and hardener. Most of the manufacturers, the websites will have a calculator that you can put in your measurements, and it'll tell you how much. This is a 1-to-1, so you want to make sure that you are looking at your brand to make sure how much hardener, how much resin you need to mix in there. So we're going to mix equal parts to get there. Now it's time to mix this. The instructions say to mix it for 3 minutes. You don't want to skip that part either. It might seem tedious and it might seem like, oh, I don't really need to do it for 3 minutes. But if you don't, it may not set up correctly. So as you're mixing it, as you can see, I'm using like a popsicle stick to stir that. You want to make sure you're going around and scraping the inside of your glass. Make sure that you're getting all of that off of the edge, scraping the bottom, mixing, going back and forth, going the opposite direction around the glass, because they're both the same color and they're both clear. So it's really hard to be sure that you got them all mixed. So you just have to keep doing that. I recommend you set a timer and just do it for the whole 3 minutes and just keep on scraping and stirring until that 3 minutes is up. Okay, we're ready to pour. So you're going to see here that I've got 3 canvases set up. I've got them set up on all the little plastic pyramids to keep them up off the table. And the table is lined with plastic as well. And these are fairly large canvases. So, and I mix this up in multiple cups so that I could mix it easier, to be honest. And so I'm pouring this a little bit at a time because I don't know exactly how much I'm going to use on each one. And as I pour it, you'll notice I'm using a gloved hand to just run across the top of that and ease it over the edges and make sure it covers all over the edges. And when you're doing this, you'll be able to feel it. You know, if you have it covered, your hand will just glide because it's like, you know, it's just all liquid. But if you come across a part that is not covered, because it's clear you can't really see it that well, you'll be able to feel it. It'll drag, your gloved hand will drag on the painting. So you'll need to add more. So you just keep going and working it around. And make sure you're coming down over those edges so that you get good coverage all the way around. This is a good shot so you can see how the little pyramids hold it up off of the table. Just gives you a really good idea of how you can, it'll allow it to drip down but not form an edge. Here's a close-up look at the pour so you can kind of see at eye level what it looks like when and how you're applying it when you put it on. Like I said, you want to go around all, see there it was a dry, so I had to add some more. Just keep going around till you get it all covered. So once you're done with your pour and you're happy with your coverage, we're going to go around with a heat gun, or they make little torches for this. And you want to just keep moving it. And what that heat does is heats up the resin and it pops all the little bubbles so that you end up with a clean, smooth surface. Now we've got the resin poured and it's a waiting game. So while we're waiting, I want to show you what happens when you get distracted on the phone and you don't pay attention and you mix 2 parts hardener instead of 1 part resin and 1 part hardener. It will not set up. So you don't have to fret. It's not just ruined, but you're going to have to do a lot more work. You see here, I'm taking a silicone scraping tool and I am scraping all of that resin off. And I have to get it as clean as possible and then wipe it down with alcohol so that I can do a brand new pour. So, learn from my mistake and make sure that you're paying attention. Another thing I did was I put tape around the edge thinking I could stop it from going over the edge. And I thought I'd just pour the top. What happened is the resin worked its way right up the tape, and then you'll see here it left this high ridge. It was about 1/4 of an inch. And again, it wasn't a fail. I mean, it was a fail, but it wasn't all lost. I just had to sand it down make sure I didn't damage the painting, and start to pour all over again. So again, learn from my mistakes. Okay, so now let the fun begin. Now we get to start. The painting is dry, the resin took and set up good, and we get to start taking that tape off the back. You're going to see here, I'm going to point out, see these little ridges? It might be a little hard to see on screen, but there's like little drippy marks all along the whole back of it, like bumps. They're about the size of a pea, all along the edge. And when we take this off, you're going to see it's so satisfying that it peels all of those off and leaves you with a completely clean edge on the back of that canvas. Look how easy that comes off. And it's all because this tape is made to work with resin. And it just comes completely off and leaves such a clean edge. No sanding, no scraping. Everything is perfect. So there you have it, for beginning to end. Look how shiny, and the result is just spectacular. And I'm going to show you just a couple more paintings here, as you can see how they turned out. This one is highly textured, and it really just brought out all that color. I hope you try it. Again, my name is Marlene Steele, owner and artist at My Color Strokes. If you like this kind of content, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Thank you for watching.